Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're jumping into an explainer that honestly goes way beyond the daily headlines and the usual stereotypes you might be used to. We're going to unpack the layers of history, theology, and the modern search for purpose surrounding Islam in America. We're looking directly at what historical records and core texts actually say, distilling the whole shebang right into the slides you'll see today. So let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with a bit of a curveball. What if I told you the story of America literally cannot be fully told without Islam? It kind of challenges our preconceived notions, doesn't it? When a lot of people think about Islam in the US, they immediately picture modern communities that arrived over the last few decades. But as we'll see, the sources actually reveal a much deeper, older story.
All right, part one, Islam's deep American roots. We're talking about a story that spans centuries.
You know, long before the United States was even a nation, the Atlantic world was this massive web connecting Africa, Europe, and the Americas. And looking back at the 1700s and 1800s, among the millions of enslaved Africans brought here, a really significant number actually came from Muslim societies. Historical records show that some of these individuals were highly educated scholars. We're talking about people who could write from memory in Arabic and fully understood the Quran. Despite losing their freedom and their homeland, they held on to their faith as this unbreakable piece of their humanity. Then, over the 1800s and 1900s, waves of new immigrants arrived, building communities around that fundamental belief in one God, which brings us to the widespread integration of today.
Fast forward to the present moment, and American Muslims are intricately woven into the very fabric of the country. I mean, they're the doctors in your local ER, the engineers building our infrastructure, military personnel, artists, and everyday community leaders. They aren't on the outside looking in, they are an active, driving part of the American story.
Moving on to Section 2, the meaning of Islam. Here we'll look at the core teachings on peace and the divine.
To really get the mechanics of the faith, we kind of have to look at the word itself, right? Islam is an Arabic word, and it's deeply connected to both submission to God and the concept of peace. But what does that actually mean in practice? Well, the texts emphasize that this isn't about cruelty or harshness. Rather, it's a framework perfectly designed to foster a profound sense of personal responsibility, justice, and mercy in the life of a believer.
And right at the very center of all this is a shockingly simple but incredibly powerful idea called Tawheed. Basically, it's the recognition of God as completely one and unique. For a lot of people encountering this faith for the very first time, this is a really striking concept because there's no complicated hierarchy, there's no middleman between the human being and the divine. You can turn directly toward your Creator.
So, how exactly is this Creator viewed? Well, before starting pretty much any action, whether that's eating, traveling, or just sitting down to work, believers recite the phrase Bismillah ir-Rahman ir-Rahim. That translates to, in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. It's this fascinating daily, almost hourly reset. It proves that mercy is absolutely central to how believers understand God, and by extension, how they are instructed to treat everyone around them.
That brings us to Section 3, faith, character, and action, translating that belief into everyday life.
Imagine structuring your own day like this for a second. You start the morning remembering God. Midway through a totally chaotic afternoon, you intentionally hit pause to reconnect. And then you end the night with gratitude and reflection. This is exactly how the 5 daily prayers function in real life. Think about the sheer psychological benefit of that structure. In our world today, we are constantly on the go, doom scrolling, rushing between tasks, answering a million emails. These prayers create a mandatory pause, a moment to literally log off, breathe, and remember what actually matters in the grand scheme of life.
And this internal focus, it completely flips how we handle conflict. Society usually tells us strength is all about physical power or dominance, right? But according to the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, true strength is actually the internal struggle for self-control. Real power is biting your tongue when you're fuming and actively choosing patience and forgiveness over retaliation.
But, and this is a crucial distinction, the sources make it clear that advocating for peace doesn't mean you just ignore wrongdoing. There's this really powerful principle here. Peace without justice can become silence. The Quran teaches believers to stand up for fairness, even when it's ridiculously difficult, and even if it's against themselves or their own families. You simply cannot claim to have genuine peace if people in society are being treated unfairly.
So, you can see how this faith pushes morality way past the walls of a mosque. It demands treating your neighbor well, caring for your aging parents, protecting the vulnerable, giving charity,
And honestly, perhaps most importantly, acting with total integrity when absolutely nobody is watching you.
Now, we have to impartially recognize the human element in all of this. Muslims are, of course, human beings. Just like in any major civilization, Islamic history contains periods of incredible achievement and, yeah, periods of deep failure. People can follow their principles and they can absolutely violate them. To understand the religion itself, we have to separate the core teachings found in the texts from the flawed actions of everyday people.
All right, final part. Section 4. The modern search for meaning. Ancient answers for a hyper-connected age.
We live in such a bizarre juxtaposition right now, don't we? I mean, we've got this incredible technology. We can get groceries dropped at our door in 10 minutes and video chat across the globe instantly. Yet, we still grapple with the absolute oldest human questions. Our shiny new phones and gadgets simply cannot fill the existential void that every single human being eventually confronts.
Because at the end of the day, we're all haunted by the exact same overwhelming questions. Why am I here? What is the actual purpose of life? What happens after we die? What makes a good human being? Who is God? These are the heavy, persistent questions driving so many people, especially the younger generations, to seek out deeper spirituality right now.
And thanks to the internets, scratching that existential itch is easier than literally ever before. Anyone can just sit in their bedroom, pull up a beautifully recited chapter of the Quran, watch a theology lecture from a scholar thousands of miles away, compare translations, and ask questions directly to Muslims online. This unprecedented, unfiltered access allows people to thoroughly explore the faith on their own terms.
As our sources point out, for a lot of those folks out there searching, the texts of Islam actually provide a really structured, clear framework. It cuts through the noise with a direct answer. Life does have a purpose. Human beings are ultimately accountable for their actions, and worship isn't just a weekend activity in a building, it's something woven into your everyday existence.
So we're going to wrap up on this final, pretty provocative thought drawn straight from the source material. Peace is not just something we wait around for the world to hand us. It's something we are challenged to actively build with our words, our actions, and the people around us. So I'll leave you with this. How will you practice peace today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.